just activated. Your weekly football fix kicks off now.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube and TikTok.
LFC Total Red Football Podcast with myself, Kings, and we have a full house tonight. Joining me is Kev, Neil and Richie, and we're going to be talking about the news which has only broken in the last, 30 minutes or so, that Liverpool FC have a new head coach. His name is Andoni Iraola. He is the new man in charge, a 2-year deal. And I've been reading earlier today, actually, that he doesn't like long contracts. So I can see why it's a shorter one, and he likes to just be like in the here and now almost. But we'll get into that as we go along. Like I said, Kev, Neil, and Richie are all joining us to discuss this because it's like I say, it's breaking news, and we have a new guy in charge. So Neil, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's someone that I liked because I found Bournemouth probably one of the most enjoyable teams, if not the most enjoyable team to watch in quite a drab Premier League season. So I think, look, we've come off a really, really poor season, and we were all getting fed up with the monotonous football. And I think at the very least with this guy, you're going to get football that you can enjoy. So from a football perspective, I'm delighted because I think he'll play a really attractive, aggressive style. I think he'll look to use the younger players and rotate his squad more because I think he's had injuries at Bournemouth, and I think he's learnt because of his style of football. There's certain things that he will do. So from a footballing perspective, no concerns and excited. Our dressing room's probably not as easy to manage as it may have been a few years ago. So the challenge for him will also be getting the attitude of the players in line, and that's probably the bigger challenge for him than producing the football that we want. But I think it's an exciting appointment, as I say, because he does play some heavy metal football, which is what I think we've all been craving over the past few months.
Kev, your initial reaction?
Sound. No, to be honest, he wasn't top of my radar when it came to managers. I was always under the impression of what was told to us from the outset that Slot was going to be given another season. And then this looks as though it's a bit of a curveball that seems to have happened last minute. And I hope it doesn't come back to bite us on the backside for doing it, because the way it looks. You hear what's coming out of the club, and you're hearing that, we're staying with Slot and we're getting the assistant coach from Ajax. He hasn't even packed his bag and he's already out of a job. So, it's it kind of worries me to a certain degree if this was done last minute. And it's not the way I like this, the way the club does. So it's one of them. That said, you've got to agree with what Neil's already said, but I do have a few little doubts myself, but that comes with any manager, and it comes with the territory as well, because the magnitude of what the club is, and this is not a stepping stone to anyone else, it's an end stone that you end up going to. So, and because we're one of the few clubs that have that kind of status, Real Madrid being another one, Barcelona to a certain degree. So this comes with a lot more pressure. Going 2 months without a win will be highly noticed at this club, and it'll be magnitude. So it's how he deals with that. He has to start strong, and hopefully he brings a refreshing energy that this team needs at the minute, with all what's been going on the last 12, 15 months.
Yeah, fair comments. Richie, what's your thoughts on all this breaking news?
I was extremely happy because I want to see, like, everyone has already said, I want to see vertical football. I don't want to see horizontal football that we've seen in the past 12 months.
Yeah, of course.
And Iraola, like, he does produce that. I completely agree with what Neil and Kev said. I'm skeptical in terms of the fact that, listen, he's absolutely done it at Bournemouth. He's been phenomenal, and for Bournemouth to finish where they did is nothing but a credit to him. A lot of people are asking, like, how does he manage the egos? And I just think, if you're a manager, surely you've got that ingrained in you. Like, if you see someone who isn't really working the way that you want them to work, you have that conversation with them. Now, that's obviously a strength for character and it's a strength for test, but I don't know. We a lot of people now have, for some reason, I don't think they like Dominic Szoboszlai's fashion sense. And yes, listen, what Dominic Szoboszlai did with, like, having pictures with the AFC TV lot was probably not the best thing he could have done. But, like, I would like Iraola to, like, get a grip on that and go, don't do that again. Because if you do that again, you're going to be in trouble. Like, I want them to rein them in. I don't think we've got a massive egotistical problem at Liverpool. I really don't. But I do think there needs to be a bit of reining in. And that's where I'm at. I think Ekitike, like I said, Dom, it's not about their brand. If you play for Liverpool, you play for the shirt, you play for the club, you play for everything on your back. And that's where it ends.
Yeah.
I don't care about your brands, and neither do Liverpool fans like Kevin and Neil, like, who have been diehard. Like, they'll agree, and same as you as well, obviously. But, like, you don't play for yourself; you play for the club. If this here right now isn't enough, leave. Because if it's not enough, then, like, you need to find someone else that is enough. Because you don't play for yourself, you don't play for your brand. And I think Iraola's struggle, the only thing I think he might struggle with actually is actually that, like, trying to calm the egos.
Yeah.
But I do think he can do it. I do think he can. I'm really looking forward to the front foot, dynamic, attacking football. I think it's a really good appointment, and I just hope that he can, like, calm some egos that are starting to bubble a little bit without actual any substance. And then he can, like, sort of, like, it's a bubble right now, like a scientific experiment. It's a bubble. Let's calm that bubble and let's let it rise again and let's go for it.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, when the media started picking out this name, I was like, okay. Whether I can't say I'm underwhelmed, I can't say I'm ecstatic. It's just like, okay. Because I've watched how Bournemouth did last season. Now, because of Richard Hughes, obviously, there's a few Bournemouth players been linked with Liverpool in the past and now, obviously. Like, one of them came last summer, Kirkes. Everybody's like, oh, he's going to be on fire now. He knows how to get the best out of him. I don't know if he's going to or not at the end of the day, until he's, like Kev said, he's got to really just get going quite quick, because we haven't got time to hang about. Because in the Premier League, top end of the Premier League, if you lose 4 or 5 games, you're pretty much out of the title race already. So he's got to hit the ground running, pardon the pun kind of thing. Do I think he can succeed? Yes. And as you've said, Rich, the egos now have to fall into line. Now, we all know that Mo Salah's left, and he's had a couple of outbursts this season, or the past season. I'm not having a go at him. That kind of thing needs to be, like, let's bring it in now, like you say. It's all players one. There's no I in team, as everybody says. And you have to play for the badge, not for yourself. Exactly right what you've said. And Neil, you kicked off at the beginning saying, well, he's got a big job on his hands, definitely. Because what I find is, and I don't know if you all agree with this, when that lot up the road got rid of Ferguson, I said to my mates, I said, you won't believe how hard it's going to be, because you've had X amount of years of stability. It's perfect. You're all happy. I said, the new guy's going to come in, whoever it is, and he's got to put his own stamp on it and have the pressure of continuing the success. David Moyes come in. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say David Moyes is the best manager in the world, but he's not a bad manager. And yet he went there, it was crap because there were massive shoes to fill. Slot's come in after Klopp had an immense time at Liverpool, very big shoes to fill. Whoever came in, if it had been Alonso, if it had been anybody, it's really hard to come in when you've had a sustained period of decent, successful football. So I think Slot was, in a way, it was a victim of that. He won the league straight away. We can all argue with it, was it Klopp's side? Basically he's just got that ticking over nicely. Or as soon as he started getting his own kind of people in, he went off the rails due to other things as well. And I think it's really difficult to step into somebody like Klopp's shoes.
But Kings,
yeah.
just on that, if you look at it, any mid-table team manager that's moved up to a top team, the likes of Graham Potter going from Brighton to Chelsea, you've got Moyes, as you say, to United. There's a lot of evidence to indicate that all this mid-term management moving up doesn't necessarily work at the top level, and that's why there's probably a little bit about it. The problem, the good thing about it is, right, this isn't going to fix anything overnight. This is going to be a little bit more, and that's where I think he'll get a lot more time. What works well with him as well is he's got that Basque mentality and where he was born. He'll get the city. He'll understand why it's different and separate to the other parts of the country. So he'll get the city and he'll get the culture very well, and he'll fully embrace that. It's only when you embrace that fully will you be able to understand the fans and understand that. So for me personally, that's the only reason why there's a bit of not everyone going over the top or celebrating. It's just I think he'll be given a little bit more time because I think this is more to the identity of what the club is, and that's that. And I think that's where it stands out more than what it does on Moyes and Potter going where they did. They didn't go necessarily for the identity of the style of football that is required for the club they're going to. He suits the way Liverpool play. Now it's whether he can. That's the big step now, is being able to do this on a regular, consistent basis and doing it not only in one day or once a week, but 3 times a week and in Europe as well. And that's where this skepticism comes in, because he lacks that European football. Not saying he doesn't tactically, but he has to be able to adapt and do it 3 days a week. So whether that's Brentford 1 week on the Saturday, then Galatasaray away, and then I don't know, Crystal Palace the following week, playing against low box sides as well, which is what he's going to predominantly need to be know how to play against 90% of the time, more so than what he do against Bournemouth. There's a lot of questions, but there's a lot of positivity around everything that this creates for me. It's a good foundation to build from, and the fact that we're starting basically afresh with the amount of staff that have gone and legends that have gone, he's in a good place to be able to stick that down and set his stall out for the season ahead.
Like and subscribe to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on YouTube.
Neil, I'm just going to, this is my own thoughts, but I'm going to ask you three, I'll start with you, right? He says he's leaving Bournemouth. There's been speculation around Slot potentially staying, like Kev said, that was the rumour. Everybody put out he's staying. All these so-called, in the nose, he's staying. Is it the club are doing a big review, but it looks like he's staying, etc. I have the opinion that a few weeks ago, Iraola said, yes, I'm leaving. I'm stepping back from Bournemouth. And the club were like, do you know what? They've got Richard Hughes there. He knows him inside out, basically. He's worked with him before. And I wondered if he's just give him the wink and said, hey, just hold firm. Don't go anywhere. We've got a job coming up. But obviously we wouldn't know that to the public. Do you think that's something that potentially has happened behind the scenes?
Yeah, I do. Because it does look like, because he's had interest from Crystal Palace. I think he's had interest from Bayer Leverkusen, and maybe even offers from those clubs. It did look like he was holding out to see what happened at Liverpool. So I think the pivotal time probably was after the Manchester City FA Cup defeat and going out in Europe to PSG. And I think that may have been around the time where they started to wobble as to whether Slot was really going to stay for the future. So yeah, I think as you said, he's worked with Hughes before. He plays the style of football that we want, and I suspect he was told, because it just felt like he was waiting, didn't it, for Liverpool rather than taking one of those jobs. I think even Milan were looking at him. So I do agree though with Kev that it doesn't look like it was planned. It does look like a fairly short-term decision that's been made, which isn't the way we've done things in the past few years. So, but it could. I would suspect around the time he was sort of saying he was leaving Bournemouth, they were then starting to have doubts about Slot, and he probably did hang on for us. Just in terms of having a fresh management team, I mean, I don't know too much about his management team, but I would like to see like a James Milner on that management team that knows the club and then would enforce some standards with the players. He would, if someone was to say to me, you could pick someone that's played for the club to go in onto the coaching team and install standards, he would be top of my list, because you've seen him go mad at Virgil van Dijk on the pitch. You've seen him. He won't be intimidated by any of that. So I do agree we're inexperienced. I think what we're wary of is the unknown. What we do know about Iraola, I think we like, but what we don't know is can his teams do it 3 days a week, etc. And that's where I think someone like Milner would be a real asset, because he's been there and he's done it, and he won't be intimidated by some of the senior players that are there.
I did see last couple of days that apparently part of his coaching staff is going to have an ex-player coming into the club. Now, I don't know any names. I'm not saying Milner. Obviously,
Thiago's one.
Yeah, this is it. Thiago's another name. I've got people you can see on social media going, "Oh, it's Steven Gerrard coming back." I have no idea what it is. I'm not pretending to know. But Rich, do you think that's a good idea to get a relatively retired, recent retired? I mean, Gerrard, okay, is a few years, but somebody who's popular, has been a popular player. Do you think it's a good idea to get him into the coaching staff?
Not for me. Not for me. I'm sorry. It just feels like too nostalgic, and it just feels like too much of a happy place. I think someone like James Milner coming in, who's absolutely dick the blip test, like week in, week out, like, yeah, fine. Like, get him coming in as a fitness coach. This is what you do, and this is how you can be better, and this is what your diet should look like. Like, absolutely, 100%. Like, 100% I should be on that. For Steven Gerrard, I think have even said, like, for Stevie, under 18 manager, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. He brings the club values in. He knows what style we're trying to play. But then I look at, I don't know, some teams who have just brought things in for the sake of it, and I think, well, no, like, listen, I mean, I'm not gonna ever discount anyone who's played for a Liverpool Football Club, but you wouldn't bring in any random person to say, okay, well, you can come in then, well, you can come in, and you can come in. They've got to serve a purpose, and right now Liverpool Football Club is under scrutiny. We spent £500 million and we've not got a lot to show for it. Next season is massive. Like, whatever you play, Verts and Isak have to deliver. And you know more than anyone, I'm a massive Florian Verts fan. They've got to deliver, because if not, there's nearly £250 million spent there that's not being spent well, and we don't do that really. That doesn't come into account in the training. I mean, we've got so many youngsters coming up, and that's great because, we've also signed so many youngsters too. But I think we need to do better. I would say we need to do better in terms of what we want from our players and what we want from our team and what we want from our fan base is so important. Kev, I didn't actually see you on Sunday. I don't know if you were there. Were you there?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in the cop with Matty. Literally, was with Matty next to him, and we were just like, oh, man, like it should be a party atmosphere. Like even though it's the last day of the season, like we've got Champions League football, and me, Matty, and his brother were like, oh, it's so flat. Like,
yep. But it's the manner. It's the manner of how we got to the Champions League. It wasn't via the qualification of table. It was down to the fact of a gamble that the coefficient for the international was going to save our grace, which it did.
Yeah.
And that was worrying. I think the way we ebbed over the line over the last 4 games is probably the bit that has actually tarnished them more. And I think even more so the Villa game away, in the fact that they're playing midweek in a European Cup final, and they still managed to absolutely have the way with us, and even and should have won by more. So I think the nails were automatically in the coffin. I kind of agree with what Neil said, as well as that you've also then got Iraola coming out around that time or just beforehand and putting his name out there as to say, look, this is what it is. There's part of me thinking that they don't want Alonso, because if he comes in, it could mean that he gets more power because the fans would be behind him more.
Yeah.
This doesn't necessarily give him that. I kind of disagree with yourself, Richie, over bringing someone in. I think it needs, I think for someone who's stepping up as what Iraola's doing, I think in the initial steps, it's paramount that he understands what, if he doesn't know already, but it gives him a bit of a leverage as to, and it adapts to the fans as well, even more, in the fact that he's willing to embrace himself into the culture of what the club is about. And I'm going to do everything I can to get around it. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I think that goes in a tick box for me, because it kind of makes me think that he wants the ethics and the culture back at this club that have been absolutely torn apart in the last 15 months, if we're being brutally honest, with the style of football, the style of formation, and the fact that the mere fact that we've been outrun in every game that we've virtually played all season. So it goes in that for me as one of them. Deflated. It's been like that since January for me. I've been like that since Crystal Palace away. I've never felt as though there should have been a party at the end of the season. I think the man, 1 minute we're behind United and should be beating them and going ahead of them, and we end up 5th. And
mate,
we don't. Do you know what I mean?
There's never a season where
anything.
we should celebrate finishing behind United at the minute. Like, for me, like I'm with you. Like, I fucking despise them, and you know this. But like, if you finish behind United, you're not good enough.
It depends. It's the manner. If you're talking, it depends what area you're talking. At the minute, yeah, I agree. But again, the problem that they've got is the fact that they've only played 1 game a season, and now they've got to step up to 3 games a season with the same squad, and they've kept Carrick, even though they said he was only getting a 6-month contract. So they're already in that cycle, which I know that we've got. We're not in. But what we've done is we've identified someone that meets the identity of this club and gets and can embrace that with the energy and the style of football, which is what the fans want. And the way we've done it probably is a knee-jerk reaction to it, but it's not going to fix overnight. And I think he'll get the time to adapt his style, and he'll be given that grace more so than if Slot would have stayed, because I saw it was kind of mirroring what we done with Rodgers to a degree, where we will only get rid of him by September when we're out the Champions League, or we're going to fall out the Champions League. Yeah. And then, that, and then the frustration will then come in again, because then fans will be like, well, why didn't we do this at the start of the at the end of the season? It's the right time to do it. It's an ideal time to do it. And it gives us a new identity and a new style of football, and hopefully it bodes well.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
If they knew that they was going to sack Slot, why didn't they do it the day before? Because we could have given him an absolute send-off. Because he delivered title number 20, right?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
massive. And I do feel a little bit let down by the club because they've not just done a snap decision. Oh, okay, we drew against Brentford, so therefore he's gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's still qualified for the Champions League, which minimum expectations. But, like, I think he deserved better. I don't know what you guys think, but I think he deserved better than that. And I think the club could have done a little bit better by him. He delivered number 20. And I'm not a fan of his football. I'm really not. As you've been known on this podcast, I hate it. I hate the style of football. I'd rather lose 4-3 than I'd lose 1-0, right? But he did deserve a little bit better.
I totally agree. I think he should have been given a send off. I know you mentioned it earlier. People say about he won the league with Klopp's team. Winning the Premier League is not easy. You look at how Arteta has struggled. All right, he's finally got over the line. I think Slot deserves enormous credit for that title because that wasn't off the back of a huge transfer window. But unfortunately, he was a major part of the issues that we had this season. But for the fact that he did deliver that title, and I still think he deserves immense credit for it, he should have been given the recognition. And I think that the fans would have appreciated him and given him a nice send-off. So, yeah, it was disappointing, I agree.
Neil, I'll stick with you. He, like Richie said, he brought us the title, first season. So, and I really had high hopes from that, and then they spent so much money last summer. I know, and I am not trying to play it down. Obviously, we can talk about Konate leaving, which we will probably get onto shortly, but he's already come out and said, obviously, it affected him personally. Jota passing away, and unfortunately for him, his father passed away in the season as well. He had some depression, and I'm sure it affected other players massively. What happened to Jota last summer, that had a big effect, and I'm not playing that down, and I'm not using an excuse. But they went into the summer last season as league champions before that happened, and you think, right, we've got it here. We've spent £500 million. It's going to be a time to push on for the next 4 to 5 years, and it's gone so much the other way that I genuinely am a bit gobsmacked at how much it's dropped off from one extreme to the other. 25 points we finished behind Arsenal. It's like, wow, never in a million years were I expecting that, for Arteta. He's been very lucky this season. I personally don't think if Man City, even Man United have picked up, if Man United have been better because they're not playing in Europe, Liverpool have just been 20% better, and City would have had a few extra games where they took the points, Arsenal wouldn't have won the league. But it looks like they've strolled it to a point, and it's like they haven't. They're not that good, and I don't think next season they'll win it. I think he's had his one chance. I really thought Liverpool were going to challenge, and the way it's dropped off has absolutely hit me for six. It's madness.
So I totally agree. You could never underestimate the impact of what happened in the summer, and there's no doubt that has its impact. But in terms of the team and the way they were playing, I think it goes back into our title-winning season. And I remember from sort of February onwards watching. The one I remember is Wolves at home. I think we won 2-1. And they absolutely dominated us for the last 40 minutes of the game. And that wasn't a single occurrence. So maybe the signs were there, but because we were winning and we won the league, everyone kind of forgets about it. But that was happening before we'd actually won the league. Yes, we even won after that. And then you had the events of the summer, as I said, that has undoubtedly had an impact, but I never felt that, we had bad runs under Klopp. I think we lost 6 home games at once. under
Yeah.
Klopp. But he found a solution that season, and I think we finished third in the end, and that was with Nat Phillips and Reece Williams coming in to play centre half. And he made mistakes, Klopp, but
Yeah, of course.
he was able to rectify it and look like he knew how to rectify it. Whereas Slot, I think he tried things, he left Salah out and he played a more defensive team, and we had that unbeaten run, which was about 13, 14 games, but it was horrid football. And then we got the 3 at the back against PSG, and it just looked like he didn't have an idea how to fix it. And I think that would have left a lot of the fan base lacking confidence in his ability to start next season well and turn it around. And when you lose the fans, you know,
it's difficult then.
You can't recover it. So no doubt things didn't go in his favour. There was a tragedy. We did have a lot of injuries, but I think he takes a lot of the blame. But I think he's not the only one. I think the players have to take their share of the blame, because some of their performances and attitudes at time were unacceptable. And those above Slot, I think, also need to take some responsibility, because they did leave something of an unbalanced squad. And I don't think they probably managed him strongly enough last season. So, yeah. But as I say, I think the signs were there the season we won the league, because you kind of, because they win, you kind of gloss over it, but like actually,
well, yeah, of course, yeah, because we all had that big celebration, and we have the rose tinted glasses, don't we? And then it's just like, and then you see it for real the season after, you think this is shit. But it was covered up. Yeah, I completely agree. Kev, you go week in, week out, and you see these big players, and some of them are, you know, obviously trying their, no, let's rephrase that because that's unfair. I'm sure they go out there and they try their best. The tactics that whichever manager or head coach gives out does sometimes affect how these so-called big players are on the pitch. The problem Liverpool have got now is a new manager comes in with a new way of going, or on this occasion, he's starting with a 2-year deal. So it's a 2-year plan. That's what he's got to start at. He's starting from the beginning. He's already lost 3 players from last season's squad. And that's before they sell anybody this summer. What kind of job can he do with, you know, like Salah, Konate, Andy Robertson? Yes, they're all kind of players now that we've got to forget about. But how do you replace big players like that in a squad at Liverpool with a new guy coming in? Is he going to just buy everybody from Bournemouth, do you think? Or is it a case of hopefully he's got a wide network, and the board at Liverpool who get the transfers as well, you know, have really got top targets in place, you would hope, wouldn't you?
Well, you'd like to think so. And the pressure's definitely on this season on the likes of Hughes and Edwards, because they've only got 1 year left on their contract as well. So this is going to be a testing time for them to ensure. I think it'll come easy to. I think the way that the club will be working will be similar to what he's got at Bournemouth. He'll have a degree of input as to who he wants, and then he'll be given the players like he has been at Bournemouth to deal with. As Neil said quite rightly at the start, I think this will open pathways, and I think that's why one of the reasons why Josh Abers has probably stayed at the club, in the fact that the pathway now under Iraola is going to be a lot easier to get into the potentially getting into the senior side and being around the squad, and then more so than what it has been for the last, like it has been under Slot. It's always going to be difficult, and this is why I think he'll be given a bit of time, because as the lads have quite rightly said, you know, we spent £500 million and we're thinking that we're going to win everything, but we had a manager who spoke more than what the actions he was actually giving out, and we had players running through mud because they were going through things. When you go through depression or you lose someone, you just go through the motions, and I think we saw a lot of that last season. The fact that although they're trying and they're doing the best, it comes across as though they're not bothered. But I just think they were just trying to get through those 90 minutes and just hoping that the season ended as quickly as it started. So there's a lot of contributing factors. I think this gives a fresh start. Everyone's gone away. He comes back after when the World Cup's gone, and hopefully there will be a few new identities in there. Hopefully we have someone who's in place to replace the likes of these guys. But I'll be honest, if you're replacing Salah, it has to be a blockbuster person. It can't be a mediocre. You can't half-heartedly go with an option. And if that's the Diamande or whether that's Elise, then you've got to break the bank for those type of players. But it doesn't help when it's coming back off $500 million being spent the year before. So it's going to be testing. I no doubt there'll be a few players who'll go to Bournemouth, but I wouldn't be. That wouldn't bother me because there's quality players within that squad. And there's a few players that I'd like, especially the right winger and the Alex Scott looks all pretty decent as well. You can get someone on for who is it, the centre half who's there as well. So there's options there if you on a free. So I expect them to make them, but I think it works best for Iraola in the way that he'll just be a coach and he'll just get on with it and be able to adapt the players and get a style of football that this team has been lacking for the last 15, 16 months.
The LFC Total Red Football Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts from. Also available on your smart speaker, or you can watch us on YouTube.
Iraola's got a big job. He's got to now find a replacement for Konate in defence. Now, I know there's Jeremy Jacquet and Leone will be coming back. Hopefully, he'll be back. So there's two players, and me and Kev have talked about this a few weeks back. There's two young, hungry players coming in at least. And I'm sure they will find somebody else. But then, as Kev said there, somebody's now got to replace Mo Salah. I mean, Kirkes knows on the left-hand side, of defence, he trusts Iraola because he's played for him before. So he'll probably be chuffed to bits that he's coming in. That's going to benefit him, I think, because he had him flying down that wing sometimes. It was like, wow, he's got some pace. So maybe we'll see that upgrade for him. But down the right-hand side, replacing Salah was always going to be a tough ask anyway. Rich, do you agree with Kev? It's got to be a blockbuster signing to replace him.
You can't replace him. That's the thing.
Try and get somebody new to do.
I know. But you can't. So no, I think the Liverpool movement now is in you look at Iraola. Yes, they have pacey wingers. They have to feed the 10, which feeds the 10 inside, and then go up to Isak, hopefully, or Ekitike. So I don't think it's a like-for-like signing because Gakpo is not that out-and-out winger. And neither is Rio, to be fair, because Rio, as amazing as he is, he's not the end product. I mean, he's only 17, bless him. So, he can get moulded to the inside forward if you want Sadio Mane. But, I think Liverpool now are moving more towards the central attacker. So, I don't know, that right midfielder, I mean, gosh, I'd love to know what people think about who they should sign because Elise is probably the one for me, but you're looking at 80, 90 million. And we need to be signing the next Elise. We need to not be getting... We don't want to be a Man United and going, oh, yeah, Casemiro, 400 grand a week. Let's sign him. We don't want that. We want the next and the next and the next. And that's where Liverpool have always evolved from. I don't know. It's hard because without Salah,
I think
you've got a massive gap on that right.
Yeah, I think you're right because think about Salah when he came in. Yes, he'd played for Chelsea. He'd gone away to Roma because he hadn't cut it in the Premier League. Now, Chelsea sometimes are quite quick to say, oh, you're not working for us, you're out kind of thing. And that's just the way their squad turnover is. But we brought in a player, 34, 35 million pound and go, we'll give you a second chance in the Premier League. Nobody, it doesn't matter, anybody at Liverpool will never convince me if they, Michael Edwards or anybody can't come out and say, oh, we knew he was going to be this good. nobody knew Salah was going to do what he did.
I mean, I've listened to the High Performance podcast where I can't remember who it was who was in charge of the Salah transfer.
Ian Graham.
Oh, was it Ian Graham? It was so good, wasn't it? Like 20 minutes.
Was brilliant,
and this is why Salah. This is why we signed Salah. So, like, if you listen to the High Performance podcast, not plug-in, but they like had a 20-minute snippet of said, this is why we signed him, you know?
Yeah.
And everything worked out. But I'm not saying that happens for every single signing, obviously. But, like, as Neil said, like, I mean, obviously Neil's listened to it as well. It all made sense, you know? And we signed him for 35 or 45 million from Roma. Yes, it was an absolute write-off at Chelsea, but it came straight from Bale. And, you know, same with De Bruyne. Like, you look at De Bruyne, he never hit it as he came in. He hit it second time around.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. There's Elise, for me, is like, can he do it the second time round? And are we going to pay 90 million for him? I'm personally not quite so sure. There's so many people out there, and this is where the scouting stuff comes in. If Brighton could get it right, if Brentford could get it right, like, why aren't we? Why? Man United for the past 20, 30 years have been shocking at their signings. Why have they got it wrong? I don't want Liverpool to fall in that category and go, well, listen, we've got 200 million to spend, so let's go and spend 150 million of it on Alexander Isak, because he scored 24 goals that season.
Yeah. Neil, what do you think about the right wing? You have any names that you're looking at thinking, he'd be a good player?
I would love Elise, because I think he's a magnificent player. I just want someone that's going to become that can grab a game by the scruff of the neck, because I don't get that opinion at the moment with Wirtz and Isak, and I think maybe I agree with Kev that we do need a blockbuster signing, someone that can do something special and change the game and show some leadership. I think the side lacks leadership at the moment. So yeah, I mean, Elise would probably be the perfect one. There's a lot of talk about Diomande, 19-year-old, 100 million.
Yeah.
I just hope if we do, I think Elise is less of a gamble than Diomande, because he's played in the Prem. He's been brilliant for Bayern Munich. Diomande's played 30 odd games for Leipzig. So, yeah. But if we go for Elise, then I think we need pace on the other side, and someone that will carry the ball upfield, a bit similar to how Diaz used to. So yeah, I would like us to go and sign an absolute worldie, and someone that will be, you know, you're not going to be as impactful as Mo Salah, but someone that can impact the team in the right way. And inspire others as well, because as I say, I do think we are lacking leadership currently.
We're 6 months too late to get Semenyo. Should have got him in originally. He'd have probably worked out well with the coach now. It's the way it goes. I think the Premier League is going to have a different twist on it next season. Obviously, Man City got a new coach coming in. Liverpool got a new coach coming in. Arsenal have the pressure now of trying to repeat what they've just done. It's actually a different, so for Arteta, it's a different kind of pressure for next year. The top end of the table now is going to look, I don't know, or just feel a little bit different next season, just because each person's going to try something now that they want it to work for them. Whether Liverpool can now, as I said earlier, hit the ground running and make that transition with a new head coach straight away is debatable. You know, the kind of turnover they're going to possibly do, I don't think it's going to be anything like last year in money amounts, but there's definitely I'd say there's got to be at least 3 or 4 players coming in. Kev, do you reckon?
It depends what.
It's a hard one, isn't it?
Look, there's at least 4 or 5 players that need to come in for where we've let ourselves short. We still haven't replaced Ronaldo. We haven't really got a number 6. We need 2 centre-halves because we've got a 34-year-old playing every game that shouldn't be playing every game. You've got a winger that needs to come in, and you need a formation to back it all up. So there's a lot of issues and a lot of problems within the squad, and prioritising that is where he's going to earn his money. How many come in? I'll be honest, it'll depend who's leaving and who goes, and there's questions that Curtis Jones may go to Inter Milan and etc. And there'll be other players that need to go as well. But it all comes down to who the manager thinks he can build a squad from. He can get the best out of players, which is something that I can't put on Slot to do. I think he'll be able to get that extra 10-20% more out of players, a bit like what Klopp did. So, and I'm hoping that he can get the players that he wants. Ideally, I'd like.
Do you think? Sorry, I was going to say. You mentioned Curtis Jones. Do you have the feeling he might be back in the office now, going, do you know what? We've changed head coach. I think I'll stay now. Do you think it was because of Slot, or do you think he really wants to move on?
To be honest, until the autobiography comes out, or you speak to them directly, you're not going to actually find out, are you? Do you know what I mean? So it's all Chinese whispers and and all that kind of keeping. And I don't go down that road and down rabbit holes. But what I will say is he will have an option to speak to the new manager, listen to what he says. And if he comes across in a way that makes him think I can stay here and move and progress, then sound, we keep hold of him. But if Iraola doesn't feel as though he's getting that kind of feeling that he wants to stay, then he'll go. And look, good luck to him. It's just a shame how it's ended. If he does go, I'll be happy if he stays. He's done a very good job for us, especially this season. And adapting to playing right back is just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? But that's what you're dealing with. And hopefully we don't go down this route of square pegs and round holes. And we actually get players to play there. Right back is another question mark for me. We've got a person who's a hybrid in Frimpong. He's not a right back. He's not a winger. He's something in between, and all he's got is pace. And he's 1 foot tall. So it needs to be built on as to how we adapt there. There's certain areas within the field that we'll all prioritise and feel that where the money should go, but we shouldn't be leaving ourselves short in the spine, which is your centre halves or your midfield. And if we get 2 of them in and a winger, I'll be happy. And then a few little extras on top, that'd be great.
You're listening to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast.
I want to say a massive thanks to Kev, Neil, and Richie for coming on the LFC Total Red Football Podcast and chatting about obviously the new appointments of Andoni Iraola as the new head coach, replacing Arne Slot. It's going to be a very interesting summer to see who else leaves the club and the type and the amount of players that come into LFC. So we shall be keeping a very close eye on it, and we shall chat throughout the summer as and when things change. Thanks to everybody who does subscribe and watch on YouTube and TikTok, and also anybody who listens on Spotify, Apple, etc. Thank you very much for watching and listening.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time for more LFC Total Red Football Podcast.